Sean Combs meets 1 Samuel 22 Bible stories. Before the multi-platinum singles, the shiny suits, and the Arista joint venture money, Sean Combs was fired from Uptown Records in 1993. Ousted from the house he helped build. To the suits at MCA, he was a volatile, overly aggressive liability who had finally been contained. But Scripture has an exact, blood-stained blueprint for what happens when an elite operator is cast out of the royal court. It is found in 1 Samuel 22, the palace friction. In the ancient text, David is the magnetic star of King Saul's court. He slays Goliath, orchestrates victory after victory, and commands a room. But David's raw talent and meteoric rise ignite paranoia in the old king. David wasn't ousted because he failed. He was ousted because he was too successful. In 1993, the president and CEO of Uptown Records was King Saul, the undisputed monarch of new jack swing and high society black elegance. But Sean Combs was the young David in the building, aggressive, hungry, and relentless. Combs wasn't content with just executing the CEO's vision. He was crossing the line, stripping R&B groups like Jodeci of their polished suits and putting them in combat boots, backwards caps, and oversized leather. The corporate establishment couldn't stomach his volatility. The president and CEO of Uptown Records, sensing the threat to his own kingdom, threw his spear and cut Combs loose. David was cast out of the palace, the outlaw syndicate. When a general is stripped of his command, the establishment expects him to starve. But 1 Samuel 22 details a completely different tactical response. David departed from there and escaped to the cave. And everyone that was in distress, and everyone that was in debt, and everyone that was discontented, gathered themselves unto him, and he became a captain over them. And there were with him about 400 men. 1 Samuel 22 verses 1-2. David didn't seek out established generals or comfortable aristocrats. He built a war room out of the hungry, the forgotten, and the dangerous. When Puff Daddy was thrown into his own exile, bad boy entertainment became his cave. He gathered the precise 3 classes of outcasts outlined in verse 2. The distressed, the unmarketable talents. The notorious B.I.G. was an unheard-of street poet from Brooklyn whose raw weight terrified traditional major labels. The discontented, the corporate outcasts operatives like Harve Pierre and Mark Pitts abandoned the safe corporate paychecks at Uptown to march into the wild with Combs. The debt-ridden, the hungry hitmakers, a nocturnal collective of beatmakers known as the Hitmen, took up residence in cramped studio rooms, working round the clock. The forced expansion from exile to empire. Saul believed that stripping David of his rank would extinguish his threat. The executives who pressured Harold to fire Combs made the exact same miscalculation. They mistook displacement for defeat. Inside the corporate palace of Uptown, Combs was just an executive, bound by corporate rules and distributor oversight. By locking him out of the building, they removed his ceiling. Driven into the rocks, Combs didn't just build a new record label. The wilderness forced him to expand across every border. Bad Boy Records became the dominant cultural engine of 90s hip-hop and R&B. He launched Sean John, forcing high fashion to accept hip-hop aesthetics, and eventually winning a CFDA award. He pivoted into television production, spirits distribution, and media ownership. The immutable law of 1 Samuel 22. The core lesson is brutal and strategic. The palace gives you rank, but the cave builds your empire.